Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be making Clank from Ratchet and Clank. So for this I'm going to make mine on a cake dummy. So I've iced a cake dummy in black and it's just a little 4-inch one that I've got. Obviously you can replace yours with a real cake instead of a polystyrene one if you wish. And I'm taking cocktail sticks because mine's not going to be eaten. You can use spaghetti if you want to eat it, although modelling paste sets so hard that I probably wouldn't eat modelling paste. And I'm just going to push these into my polystyrene dummy, making sure there's still quite a bit of them stuck out of the dummy, like that. We're going to be using modelling paste so that it sets nice and hard. Now, I've got some black modelling paste and some white that I'm just going to mix together to make a grey. Using that grey we've now mixed, roll a small ball, and we're going to half that with the knife, which gives us pretty much the shape we need for the feet anyway, so I'll just give them a smooth off. And we're going to push each of these down onto the top of our cocktail sticks. And you can add a little bit of water under the foot just to stick it in place. Same with the other one. And we've rolled a little sausage shape that we're going to cut in half in a deeper grey. And each of those halves are just going to go on the top of each foot. And now we're going to roll a cylinder of black. These are going to become legs. We're just going to keep some quite short little pieces. So cut that into 2 small pieces. A little bit of water on the feet where these are going to sort of connect to. I'm going to push these onto the cocktail stick on each leg, like that. Now I'm going to roll a few little balls, 4, so 2 for each leg, and we're going to stick these onto like the ankle. So that's one side done, just do the same on the other side. I'm just going to put in a little line so it looks more like a screw. Now I've rolled another cylinder, this time in grey, but I've kept my cylinder much chubbier. And again we'll cut in 2 pieces. And these will become like our knee joints. So I'm sliding these on. This time the cylinder is on the opposite way. So we've put it through the side of the cylinder, not directly through the middle, top to bottom, if that makes sense. So again, you're going to roll another black piece, similar thickness to what we've done the bottom half of the legs. I've done mine a little bit long, so I'll cut a bit more off. And then these are going to slot above our knees. And if they lose the shape a bit when you push them on, just give them another press to get them back to the original cylinder shape. And you should have a little bit of cocktail stick left stuck out the top. I'm going to cut some small black circles. I've just got a plunger cutter here for mine. And I'll put any equipment in the description box below the video that I use. These circles are going to go on the side of our knee joints. And we want a smaller circle again in grey. So I've just got piping nozzle here that I'm going to use because it had a smaller circle. Just push into the centre of the black circle that we've just added. Again, we'll put a line through so it looks a bit more like a screw. And I'm just rolling a long thin piece of black. And we're just going to place this around the deep grey bit that you've put at the bottom of the leg, sort of on the top of the foot. And just trim it to the right size. So for the body, I've got some more grey and I'm keeping it really chunky. I've just rolled it slightly on the front. And I'm just trying to push it on the bottom so that I've got a flat bit under the body. It's quite curved at the bottom edges, so I'm just trying and sharpen them off, or you can cut a bit off the bottom to sharpen it if you prefer. I'm just going to put a couple of dints in around the top of the body, just press in a little bit with your finger so it goes in a little bit there. And now I'm going to draw a little sort of zigzaggy pattern across near the top of the body. I'm going to take another piece of grey and we're going to cut a little sort of square-ish shape out, just checking it fits on there. And I think I'm just going to trim a bit off the sides of our bodies to neaten them up. And then let's make sure this is the right size now. So it's a little bit narrower at the top than at the bottom. And using my modelling tool, I'm just going to sort of put a line just in the inside edge all the way around. And then some lines through the middle. And we'll stick that in place in the centre of his body. So we want a bit more black. Roll it nice and thin. I'm going to wrap this around that little shape that you've just made. And again, for small circles I've used a piping nozzle and we're just going to push these in between our zigzaggy kind of pattern. And I'm going to draw a bit of an arch around where his arms and shoulders are going to go. So roll thin some black and we're going to cut a rectangle out that's going to sit on the bottom of the body. So it's a little bit smaller than the bottom of the body. And then you can do the same again, this time going smaller still, and push that in the middle of the other one. And then we should be able to push this onto our legs, so it should be looking a bit like that now. And I'm going to put a cocktail stick through. Again, you can use spaghetti if you prefer. You don't want to push it too far down, otherwise it's going to come out the bottom of the body. So I'm going to just snap a little bit off, otherwise it's going to be a bit too long. And I'm going to push this in. Careful not to squash the body when you push that in. and I'm leaving a little bit out the top so there's enough to stick the head onto. Now, I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to leave mine overnight, so you can see now it's hardened. And we're going back to our grey. Just a little ball of grey for the neck, which we'll push onto the cocktail stick. And for the head, we want a larger ball that we're going to roll into not quite an egg shape, a bit more sort of cylinder-like than an egg shape. And I'm just going to put my thumbs in where I want his eyes to go, just so I remember whereabouts they're going to go on the face. And I'm just putting a line where I want his smile to be. And I've rolled a large sort of rough circle shape in my grey, and I've just cut that in half. And then this is going to go around the face to create his bottom jaw. So push that in place, bringing it up to that line that you've made for the mouth. And it should just come around as far as the side of the head on each side. And then we're going to need 2 grey circles to stick on the corner of his jaw. We want 2 smaller ones in black, and they're going to go in the middle of the grey circle. Got bits of kiwi green. You can mix other shades of green in if you prefer. We've rolled it reasonably flat, and again we've cut out 2 circles using a plunger sub cutter. And we're going to stick these into the eye sockets that you've made earlier with your fingers. Give them a good squish with your finger to flatten them down. And I'm going to cut the same size circle in a darker grey, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off each side, and then we're going to put these on to become his eyelids. And roll a thin piece of black, and this is going to go around the edge of the eye, so just trim that off carefully. See if you can push that together to try and get rid of the join, and do the same for the other eye. Then you should have his head. And we just need to add a bit more detail now, so I've got a darker grey that I've rolled out thin, and I'm going to cut, so there's a narrow bit at the bottom, wider at the top, and I'm going to cut sort of 3 slices off it, and I'm going to stick these onto a black piece, which again I've just rolled out nice and flat. Just make sure there's black all the way around the edge of these pieces, and then I'm going to trim around, just leaving a small line of black showing all the way around the edges, and this is going to stick onto the top of his head. And just a single ball of grey, a lighter grey on the top. Now again, a small bit of a cocktail stick that's going to go in here, but don't forget mine's not going to be eaten. You can replace it with spaghetti if you prefer. And I've just got some white food colouring that I'm going to try and paint into the eyes. And it's very thick is my white, so struggling to get that on my brush a bit. It wants to look like light in his eyes. If you put too much on, just gently dab over to take some off. And then we want black food colouring now to paint the little stick on the top of his head. I'm not too worried about getting the very end because I know it's going to be covered. And we're placing a red ball of modelling paste on the very end of his little antenna. And then his head is ready to push onto the body. Just give it a good push on, like that. And we're going to dust him up a little bit. So I've got some black edible food colour in here, or food powders. And I'm just going to dust around sort of the neck area, in any cracks, the little piece in the middle of his body, and anywhere really where you'd like shading to go. So anywhere that would be in shadow, you can put a little bit of the black powder on. And for his hands, I'm going to roll a rough sort of oval shape, keeping it reasonably thick, and we're going to half that. And then on the curve of each one, we're going to add a little circle. Just push those on in place. Another little line through, so it looks a bit like a screw again. And back to our piping nozzle for some smaller dots, and we'll put 4 on each hand. For his fingers, we're going to use black. I'm just cutting lots of individual little pieces, little rectangles. So these shapes are a bit long. We're going to squish them a little bit at one end to widen them, and then try and narrow them at the other. Then what I'll do is run a knife through them, through the middle or the back of the knife, because we're not cutting them in half, we're just creating a dint. And then these can stick in place at the end of the hand. And you want a third one for the thumb. Just going to use a bit of water on mine. And for the arm, I'm going to roll another snake shape of black. And it actually only needs to be quite short. And I'm just going to put a little bend in the middle for the elbow. So that's what his arm's going to look like. And then we're going to stick that onto the body. This is where it will probably fall apart, because I could have just put it all together on the body. So he's lost some fingers when I've picked it up, but we'll push those back on. And now to stick the bit of arm on. So he's starting to take shape a bit more now. So I've got a plunger cutter, and we're just going to cut a circle, which will be for the shoulder. And then I'm using a smaller plunger cutter to imprint a smaller circle in the middle. And then we'll run a knife across the middle again so it looks like a screw. And then we've got a small ball that we've just rolled freehand that again we'll put a line through the middle of. And these are going to stick on the shoulder and the elbow. And you'll need to do exactly the same on the other arm. And here he is all finished. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.
If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.